Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome to Black Ops Cold War in Depth. In today's episode, we're going to be reviewing the FARA 83 Assault Rifle, which in my opinion is the weaker of the two new weapons because it's just kind of weird in terms of stats. It's not objectively weak though. The FARA 83 has an impressive time to kill, it's got an impressive range, and just a lot of good things about it, but it's also got some weirdly placed bad things that don't make a lot of sense to me design-wise. I would most liken it to one of those little geometrical puzzles that you would play with in a family restaurant like the Cracker Barrel. It just seems like all the pieces don't quite line up right until they do. The good news is that you can unlock it for free in the Battle Pass just by grinding or leveling up, or if you don't have the patience and you just want to throw money at it, be sure to use code DRIFTOR, which has to be in all caps, and the O is a 0, but doing so in the store when you spend your COD points on the Battle Pass or microtransactions just supports me, gives me free money, which is great, though that does technically make this video sponsored by Activision, and I've recently had some bad health problems. I'm feeling better now, I'm getting on top of it, I'm coming back, but that means in order to make up for lost revenue, it's sponsorship time. Today's video is sponsored by NordPass. From the makers of NordVPN, NordPass helps you manage and store your passwords in one secure vault with one master key. You can save 50% off of a one-year plan if you use the link down there in the description, which is nordpass.com/DRFT, and if you use code DRFT in checkout. Not only will NordPass automatically generate super secure passwords that no human being could ever hope to remember, but NordPass can also remember your credit card information for easier, faster, and more secure online shopping. You can even share passwords with friends and trusted family members directly through the app in an encrypted, secure way so that you can help grandma log into your Netflix account without having a Nigerian scammer see your password because she accidentally posted it on Facebook. NordPass works on mobile and on PC and pretty much any technological device that allows you to install an app, and it has a new feature, the Data Breach Scanner, which allows you to see if you've been hacked or compromised in the past, or even if some of the accounts that you're currently using might be hacked right now. This is a godsend for your cybersecurity and well worth the money. So if you want to spend a little bit less money, even though it's worth it, you can save 50% off a one-year plan by clicking the link down there below in the description, nordpass.com/DRFT, or using code DRFT at checkout. I do hope you guys check out today's sponsor. Got a few more of those coming because I signed contracts a long time before I got sick, and it helps me kind of get back on top of things because YouTube certainly doesn't reward people who do not work. Now let's talk about the stats of the FARA 83. The FARA's bullet velocity is 675 meters per second, which is the highest in class. There are no other assault rifles that shoot that fast. It's really more like a light machine gun or a tactical rifle, and it's just overall very fast. This weapon is the undisputed king of bullet velocity, so if you have bullet velocity problems, you will not have them with the FARA. The maximum damage range is 63 meters, which is kind of insane. That's like light machine gun range or longer. Again, that is just way far and beyond the performance of the other assault rifles and way far and beyond what you are probably even going to be able to hit people with this particular weapon. The base damage, however, is kind of low at 31 to 28, and it's oddly specifically low. There's only like 3 points of damage decrease at long ranges, and 31 is kind of weird. Typically, your first damage number is an even number. I don't see things like that very often, so that's just kind of goofy, to say the least. That'll be 5 to 6 body shots to kill, which is very standard for assault rifles. The headshot damage is the standard 1.4x. You'll get one less shot to kill if you land, I believe it's all headshots. If you just get a whole bunch of headshots, you'll get one less shot to kill, but otherwise not so much. And given how accurate this weapon is, you're probably going to want to go with body shots. The gun's not really accurate enough to go for headshots with, so I don't think that'd be a good strategy, and I don't think that's something that many of you should attempt to do. The FARA's rate of fire is 800 rounds per minute, which is the second fastest in class. The FFAR, or FAMAS, does fire faster, but this one's 800, which is fast for assault rifles, and it's oddly the same as the LC-10, which kind of doesn't make much sense. It has almost the same damage as the LC-10 too, and when you math all this out, it actually has the same time to kill as the LC-10 at 300 milliseconds. And in terms of assault rifles, this is tied for fastest time to kill with the AK-47. Currently, the AK-47 is the fastest killing assault rifle in Black Ops Cold War, and this one is identical to it, which makes it very fast and makes it very good. So far, we've had a lot of interesting stats. We've had God tier bullet velocity, God tier range. We've had, weird numbers for the damage profile. We've had unusual rates of fire and all sorts of stuff like that. And now we're going to get into some of the bad things about the gun. The recoil is low-ish for the first few shots. I will say the first 3 or 4 shots aren't terrible, but then it just has crazy horizontal recoil. It likes to drag to the left and then to the right. It is a wildly unpredictable weapon, and it's worse in Warzone than it is in regular Cold War when it comes to recoil and recoil mitigating attachments. This is, in my opinion, one of the highest recoil assault rifles and one of the most difficult to control, right up there with the FFAR, so it's not easy to use at all. The iron sights are kind of like the bad version of the Krig 6 iron sights. They're usable, they're clear enough. I use them quite a bit actually in the video because I'm trying not to put a lot of attachments on the gun, but they're not great. There are a lot of other weapons that have better iron sights. If you have the spare attachment slot or you're struggling with it, I would just say go with a dot sight or 2X. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Now we're moving into another weird area of stats, and that's the handling. The FARA's handling stats are as follows. It'll aim down sights in 325 milliseconds, and it'll sprint out in 350 milliseconds. Now, out of context, that might not seem like a whole lot. It may not, you may not care what's going on with that. But compared to all of the other weapons, this is by far the slowest handling assault rifle, which kind of doesn't make a lot of sense. It's got the slowest aim down sights time, and it has the slowest sprint out time. So for a weapon that's really predicated on its time to kill, and given the high recoil, you would think kind of close quarters combat, you would think maybe it's like going to be like a snappier, lighter AK, but it's actually more a heavier, bulkier AK that handles worse in a lot of ways. So I don't quite know what to make of that, or really what to do with it in terms of kitting or gameplay. It's just plain weird. The FARA 83's hip fire is 7.5 milliradians, which is perfectly normal and standard for assault rifles, so at least no anomalies there. The base reload time is 2.8 seconds, giving it the slowest in-class reload, and this is something that you will actually recognize. So I was fortunate, or perhaps unfortunate, while I was a little bit laid up. I would play like a game or two a day and just kind of play with the new weapons and not focus on the stats a whole lot. I played with this one and I kept saying to myself, like, am I crazy? Have I not played COD in so long that I forgot how slowly guns reload? Because it just felt like I was just really struggling with the reload on this one. So you'll probably want to have some kind of magazine attachment to fix this, because you'll like actually notice it for once. Now, my objective opinions on this weapon are basically, this weapon would make a lot more sense if the AK-47 didn't exist, because it's very similar and better than the AK-47 in a lot of ways, but then it has downsides that it doesn't really make sense. So the FARA 83 has excellent time to kill, tied with AK-47. It's got excellent range. It's got more range than the AK-47. It's got better bullet velocity than the AK-47. Yet the recoil is so miserable on this weapon, there is no way that you will be able to use it properly at the ranges where those other stats actually help you. Like, if the recoil was really low, then having good bullet velocity and range is great, but the recoil is so high that you don't get to take advantage of that. And then you would say, okay, well, maybe it's more like a faster handling AK-47, a snappy one, another one of these AR-SMG hybrid things, but the reality is it's slower than the AK-47, so you would be better off, again, using the AK-47 for up-close rushing as well. And any of the places where it has strengths and shines, really should be shining, it just gets countered by itself, which is very, very frustrating. Though I do think some people will prefer the faster fire rate on this weapon, even if the time to kill works out to be the same. Between the two, some people just love fast firing weapons. They love spraying down. It just feels subjectively good in their caveman brains for whatever reason. And that's very true of the FARA 83. So some people might enjoy that, but personally, I do not. I'm going to go with the lower recoil, faster handling AK-47 at 100% of the time. Since it's a weird gun, my recommended class is going to be equally weird. So I built this class to use with Operation Hotbox. It's something that I do with the people that I play with and stream with every day. When you run into a really competitive sniping team or a bunch of LMG guys or people that just want to like hold down choke points a little bit too hard, we're all going to run, I believe it's Danger Close. We're going to get our 2 smoke grenades and just smoke out the entire map. And I built this class to move around pretty quickly in the smoke, to be decent in smaller up close quarters kind of combat, and to see people through the smoke a little bit, but without the thermal optics. So I like running the suppressor to stay off the radar. It doesn't change the recoil, very minimal penalty to range and bullet velocity, which is already awesome. The GRU suppressor would have been a good choice, but the penalties are huge, and the KGB eliminator oddly adds horizontal recoil, which is miserable. I run the Ember sighting point optics, which just gives me a very long reveal distance distance and bonus hipfire accuracy, which is very nice since I'm sprinting around. Minor penalties to handling, which is already terrible. I'm going to run the Bruiser grip so that I can reposition more quickly. I've kind of given up on recoil control. Usually I would go for Spetsnaz or Spetsnaz speed grip, but at this point it just feels like it doesn't matter, so I'm just going to run the Bruiser grip and get a little overall speed boost to the weapon. Spetsnaz 50 round mag, so I've got a giant magazine. It doesn't really impact my ADS time any further. And then finally, I run the skeletal stock so that I can sprint out pretty quickly, because that's really slow on this weapon, and so that I can get some nice like strafing horizontal movement speed, though it pretty much cancels out any benefits that I get with the hipfire accuracy, and we're back to basic. This one worked really good on smaller maps for me, and it also worked really great on Operation Hotbox, where we make snipers pretty much unusable. Outside of that, I can't really think of a good class to recommend that's going to be like a general purpose for all of you guys. If you play with this weapon, I think you should be prepared to play experimentally. Well guys, that's all for this episode of In Depth. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that you learned something useful. This is one of a couple of videos that I've recorded slowly over a couple of days while recovering from my illness, and I'm hoping that by the time you see this, I've already got 3 or 4 more in queue back to back to back for, you know, more stats and more fun content. But I probably won't even upload it until I have all that ready. But we're going to be back soon enough. If you did enjoy all this, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.